What if I told you there's a psychological technique so powerful, so dangerously effective, that it can make someone emotionally addicted to you in just one conversation? No games, no waiting, no months of chasing, just one conversation, used correctly, and you could bypass years of awkward dating and go straight to obsession. But here's the twist. It's not something you'll learn in school. You won't hear about it on podcasts. And it's definitely not what the dating gurus on TikTok are preaching. This technique, it was accidentally discovered by a professional hypnotist, buried in a strange pattern he noticed with his patients. And when it was refined, weaponized, and applied in the world of dating, everything changed. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding how human emotions actually work, and how, when used right, one conversation can feel like an emotional roller coaster no one wants to get off. They call it fractionation. And once you learn it, you'll never see attraction, influence, or even human connection the same way again. It started with tea, a quiet room, and a strange observation. A professional hypnotist shared this one insight that changed everything. Every person I work with struggles the first time. They're tense, self-aware, resistant. It's almost impossible to hypnotize them. But something odd always happened after that. By the second session, easier. By the third, even easier. And by the sixth, I could drop them into trance with the snap of a finger. It wasn't random. It wasn't luck. It was a pattern, repeated thousands of times across different people, different backgrounds. Everyone followed the same arc. That's when the big idea hit. What if you could compress all 6 sessions into one conversation? What if you could guide someone through that same emotional cycle, up and down, in and out, right there, in real time? And that's exactly what turned a slow hypnotic process into one of the most potent psychological shortcuts for influence and connection. It's a method built on contrast, emotional tension, shifting between light and dark until the mind starts to cling to the one causing those shifts. And when applied in dating or attraction, it creates an effect that feels almost supernatural. So, what exactly is fractionation? In simple terms, it's the act of guiding someone through rapid, repeated emotional shifts, bringing them up, pulling them down, then lifting them again. Not over weeks, not over months, but in a single interaction. It's emotional contrast on fast forward. Imagine this. You tell someone a story that makes them laugh. Then a moment later, you mention something painful or nostalgic. Then, just as their heart drops, you pull them back with something hopeful, funny, or even flirtatious. What you're doing, whether you realize it or not, is training their brain to associate you with emotional intensity. You become the source of the ride. And here's the key. Humans crave intensity more than logic. We don't get addicted to calm. We get addicted to roller coasters. That's why certain people seem unforgettable, even if they weren't nice. That's why someone who makes you laugh, then cry, then laugh again, somehow sticks in your head longer than the person who just treated you kindly. This is the same principle behind best-selling novels, viral shows, even intense friendships and toxic relationships. It's not about how long you know someone. It's about how deeply they make you feel. And that's the breakthrough, when you understand how to intentionally create emotional shifts without being fake, forced, or manipulative. You unlock a level of connection that most people never experience. This is why fractionation isn't just a technique. It's a shortcut to emotional imprinting. Here's the truth most people don't realize. We're not addicted to people. We're addicted to how people make us feel. That feeling, those emotional spikes, the highs and lows, that's what sticks. That's what leaves a mark. And fractionation? It taps directly into that system. Think about it. When the brain experiences contrast, going from tension to relief, from sadness to joy, it releases stronger neurochemical signals. That contrast creates emotional memory. It's why we remember a scary movie more than a boring one. It's why your brain replays a heartbreak more than a polite conversation. And it's why the person who makes you cry and laugh in the same hour ends up becoming unforgettable. Here's another way to think about it. When something just feels good consistently, our brain gets used to it. It adapts. It expects it. Eventually, it fades into the background. But when that goodness is interrupted, when there's risk, uncertainty, or tension, we start chasing the next high. We get hooked on the cycle. It's no different from what happens in gambling, social media, or even viral content. They pull you in with spikes. They keep you guessing. They create micro-emotional loops that your brain desperately wants to complete. Fractionation is that same loop, applied to human connection. And whether it's in a romantic setting, a deep conversation, or a persuasive pitch, it works because it follows the brain's oldest pattern. Pain, relief, repeat, tension, release, repeat, Emotion, contrast, attachment. Once someone starts to associate you with that rhythm, they don't just like you, they feel magnetically pulled to you, and most of the time, they won't even know why. Let's take this out of the psychology books and into something you've definitely seen before. Think about your favorite movie character, the one you shouldn't have liked, but you did. Maybe they were broken. Maybe they were dangerous. Maybe they were totally misunderstood. And yet, you couldn't stop watching. That's not by accident. That's fractionation, scripted for the screen. Here's how it works. The character shows vulnerability, maybe a tragic past or a secret wound. Then, moments later, they crack a joke, smile at the camera, light up a room. Then, the darkness creeps back in. They do something reckless, cold, brutal. Then, a moment of redemption. Up, down, up, down. By the end of the movie, you're not just watching the character. You feel like you know them. You're emotionally invested. You've been through a ride with them. That emotional contrast, that's what creates the bond. Writers use this trick to make you fall in love with villains. Marketers use it to make you trust brands. And people, knowingly or not, use it in relationships every day. Because when someone shows you joy, then pain, then joy again, they create a loop your brain wants to stay inside. And if you think this only happens on screens, think again. It's happening right now. In real conversations, in text messages, in late-night talks that flip from laughter to tears and back again. Every time someone feels emotionally moved by you, they remember you longer. Every time you create contrast, you deepen the imprint. And once you master this emotional rhythm, you'll stop trying to convince people to like you because they'll already be hooked by something far more powerful than logic. Let's get something straight. Fractionation isn't a party trick. It's not a flirty gimmick. And it's definitely not something to use lightly, because when done right, this technique doesn't just make someone laugh or cry. It leaves a psychological imprint. It creates emotional hooks that are hard to untangle. It opens loops in the brain that the other person feels compelled to close, often by getting closer to you. That kind of power, it comes with consequences. Here's the part most people won't tell you. Once you've created that emotional bond, once someone starts associating you with both pleasure and pain, there's no undo button. You can't snap your fingers and make someone unfeel what they felt. You can't delete your emotional fingerprint from their mind. That means the potential for damage is very real. People can become confused, emotionally dependent, even obsessed. So this isn't a game, and it's not for everyone. Yes, it works. Yes, it's powerful. But if you're going to use fractionation, use it with intention. Use it to build real connection. Use it to create memorable emotional moments, not to manipulate or control. Because what you're influencing isn't just attention, it's attachment. And once that's created, it can change someone, for better or for worse. Now that you understand what fractionation is and why it works, let's talk about how to use it in the real world. Not in theory, not in a lab, but in actual conversations, with real people, real emotions, and real results. At its core, fractionation is focused storytelling. You create emotional contrast by guiding someone through moments of tension, followed by release, sadness, followed by joy, vulnerability, followed by charm. And no, you don't need to be a master storyteller or hypnotist to do this. You just need to understand the rhythm. Here's one simple method. If this video made you look at connection differently, and you know now what is fractionation, in next video we'll cover some story, example, and script. Leave a comment with the word hooked, so I know you made it to the end. And if you're ready to go even deeper into the psychology of attraction, storytelling, and emotional influence, hit subscribe. This is just the beginning.